and I want to know prices with funeral homes that would care for them. And I call, and I say, ring, 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 such and such funeral home. I just had somebody pass away. Like, I just need to know what you guys might charge me to do services for them, whatever the case may be. Most of the time, the funeral home director is going to say, "Oh, well, come on in. Let's talk about it." Car dealerships say that too.
Yeah.
You ever experienced that?
Oh yeah.
Why do you think they want you there?
Yeah.
Oh, I knew your mom.
Yeah.
Oh, they smile lit up the
Yeah.
room.
Yeah.
And again, this is business.
This is the business.
It's not evil. That's not mean.
Right.
It just makes sure we need to understand. Listen.
Yeah.
So what some people do is they get a burial policy.
Yeah.
We've
been trained to get the
to get the minimal, like I said, the $2,000 or $3,000 policies and things like that. I think that's probably all we could get maybe during those times. But now, when there are options, get as much as your health will qualify for, and as much as your budget can afford.
Right.
And then just have knowledge about how to handle situations when you're grieving.
And going back to why I act, and a lot of people may ask, okay, why did he ask that about the church? He's thinking that this is something that had not just started. People have been doing this for years. If I love my church, if my church wanted to get a policy on me, the only stipulations in that will be negotiated between me, my church, and my spouse. Upon my demise, if the church can get a $50,000 policy on me, because understand, I've already got me and my spouse and my family taken care of.
Right.
If the church wants to get a $50,000 policy on me, I'm just using this as an example. I'm just showing you how to think outside the box. If I love my church, and this has been going on for years. So once we sit down and talk about it, okay, 50,000, either 25 is going to go to my wife and 25 will go to the church.
Yeah. Is anything wrong with that? No. So,
But people have been doing it for years.
No, it's been going on for years.
But all mindset is,
brother. Listen, brother. I've sat with people that have left houses. I've sat with people that have left houses to the church.
Yeah, absolutely.
And pastors come in. And when pastors come in, they let them stay in the house.
Yeah.
That the member that was a long-time member died and left to the church.
Yeah.
I've seen people that have their beneficiary as the youth ministry.
Yeah.
At the church, because that's the area they served and have a passion for.
And they want that to be funded for them.
In my opinion, and I'll say this, in my opinion, there should be no church that has a pastor that doesn't have a pastor, apostle on the pastor. And I'm going to say that just because the pastor is pouring out their life serving the church. One of the saddest things is if God did something and the pastor goes on to glory, that the pastor's family would have to use
Good point.
their funds left for them by the pastor's individual efforts to fund the pastor's fountain.
Yeah. Good point.
When he served the church with his life.
Yeah.
And I just think that's worth churches at least talking about.
Right.
Praying about whether or not to put stuff like that in place.
Absolutely.
If it makes sense.
It does make sense, because I know in my years of pastoring, I know of pastors that have passed, and for lack of a better term, they really didn't have anything, and I'm not talking about anybody. I'm just talking about it from experience. It's sad when the family has to, think about all of this, and when the church can do very little to nothing to help that family, when that pastor has, like you said, been pastoring there for 40, 50 years, 60 years. I mean, That's sad. But if that church had had a life insurance policy on that pastor and it was negotiated, look, Miss So and So, our brother so and so, whatever the case may be, we're going to take care of the expenses out of the portion that pastor left the church. And whatever you have, don't worry about that. That right there is the mindset that we need to try to transition to. And those old ways of thinking about people will be in my business and all of that, where has it gotten us? Where has it gotten us? And I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea. This is just something just to empower us, empower the community, so just food for thought.
And it starts with just having a conversation.
Yeah.
Just having a conversation.
I just have a question.
Yes, we got a question. Also, before that question, if you have a question, we got the phone set up. If you have a question, you can call 843-230-1918. 843-230-1918 if you have a question. And do we have any questions in the chat? All right. Yes, ma'am.
A ballpark figure on burial and life. What is it?
Okay, and so make sure I understand your question. A ballpark figure of what it costs to bury someone,
Yes.
and what it
Or how much can you get with both? Like, say for instance, if I get 50,000 on life, what's that price?
it's gonna cost.
Yes, and maybe 12, 15 on burial.
Okay, good, and that's a good question. So let me tell you, this is a good place to help educate on in 20 seconds on how life insurance prices are decided. Okay, it's based on two things: age and health. So I would not be able to answer that question accurately for you because it would be different for somebody else.
Okay.
So this is the thing: life insurance prices are based on risk. The higher risk they consider you, the higher they charge you. Okay? What makes you risky? Health and age, right? So somebody who smokes might be more of a risk to insure than somebody who doesn't, because they might die faster. All right? Life insurance companies have to look at it like that. Somebody who is older might be more of a risk to insure than somebody who's 21. Right? They just have to look at it that way. So what I do is I sit and have individual, either over the phone or in-person consultations with people for free. And in those consultations, I start with a quote first, and I answer that question specific for you to the dime, how much it would cost. And then you will look at that and say, because you know your budget, which is what I don't know. And you say, a little bit higher, agent, a little bit lower, Mr. Robinson. Look, that's just right, Mr. Insurance Man. Because I get called Insurance Man. That's how you know you in the community, you call you Insurance Man. Insurance Man. So that's the thing that you do. And we work to find a good price. Once you find a good price, now you have to qualify. This is the problem. People think the price you like is the price you get approved for. You got to understand how life insurance works. This is a key word: underwriting. They do underwriting. I'm sorry, I don't care who you are, what company you get approached by. You cannot get approved if the underwriters does not approve you. So there's some kind of qualification process. Like I said, it's less strenuous with whole life, okay, and it's a little bit more strict with term. But I have instant decision companies, meaning if me and you were sitting where Pastor Brayboy is, I would be able to tell you within probably about 2 minutes if you are approved. Now, everybody wants to get approved for what they're quoted for, but everybody doesn't. And it's very important that you sit with an agent that will be honest with you. Right. I would rather, because see, I've been in the business long enough to where my clients die. You don't want to get caught with an agent or broker that will tell you what you want to hear to get okay? Yeah. On the front end. Yeah. And then, God forbid something happen. They need to, the checks to the house. You got to be able to deliver on the back end too.
Yeah.
If you're gonna have a long-term reputation to be able to, because this is why the community don't trust them.
Exactly.
That's why they don't trust life insurance.
Yeah.
And they're scared to trust life insurance because agents that have said things and made promises and didn't tell you you had a 2-year wait.
Yeah. Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, if it got a 2-year waiting period, and if you pass away within 2 years of getting the policy, you're not gonna get nothing back for what you put in, and you're gonna get that face amount, explain that up front.
Right.
Sometimes the agent may be discouraged to explain that for fear that it might jeopardize his chances of being able to
Right.
go ahead and do the sign, get you signed up, and so you just want to be. I'd rather be upfront with people upfront and let you make a grown-up decision about where you want to go ahead and move forward. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So to answer your question, yes, those types of details, in order to be accurate, are revealed within the consultations because they're different for everybody. But people are usually very surprised how inexpensive life insurance is.
So, which is best, life or term?
Very good question. The quick answer is neither. Both of them are good. It just depends on who you're sitting with. That's very, very good because there's some people out there that will tell you term is God, you need to get that. And some people tell you whole life is it, that's all you need to get. Listen, term, you can say, you know what, I believe term is the best thing, I need to get it. But if you can't qualify for it, right, then you can't get it. You can like it or you don't. So it depends on which one is best is your question. It depends on what you can qualify for and what you can afford. What's best for you, it depends. That's why I became a broker. Because I was running into people that, let's say you got a major illness like an HIV or something that nobody won't touch. Okay, I can cover that. Wow. I couldn't do that before. So I would have to tell those people, I'm sorry, and they leave them with nothing. Or we can do that now.
So now you can cover people with HIV.
Yeah.
I think we got a question.
I have a question. Me being private military, and I know when you go in there, you do the full workup, you get your whole physical going in there. So that automatically qualify you for a certain amount of money. So they have no question in that.
Yeah.
But after that, when you get your ID card, it has another clause. You're qualified for like $100,000. That's what it says. In case injury, accidental injury or something like that. $100,000. But how do you get to a point where you can have both of those and yet still have the burial covered without spending it away? As far as you can have everything taken care of, like, okay, well, have everything involved in that amount, saying, well, I want this, and this, and I want it lined up to pay for this is how it's going to be. But instead of a plot, let's say I know some people have their own land. What do they want to get buried there or just cremated? How does that affect? How does that affect the policy?
So a couple things, make sure I answer your question. You start off mentioning the military. So where I think you ended up at is asking about how does it affect your policy if you have like your own plot already, on land already. So you on land, if you have your own land, and you're saying how does it affect a policy with the military or just a traditional policy? Okay, so just a traditional policy, how it affects it is, have you ever had to handle a funeral? Have you ever had to be the person after somebody died to go in the back and sit down? You ever had to do that before? Okay. Listen, guys.
Yeah,
You know what I'm talking about. And you've done it. Listen.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
No, it's not.
Okay? I'm gonna tell you.
It's frustrating.
It's frustrating. I'm gonna tell you what they're gonna do. They're gonna give you an itemized bill. Okay? And it shows everything that's paid for. Yeah. Okay? To answer your question directly, if you got your own land, got your own plot, that's an expense that you don't have to see on the itemized bills on reduce costs. So there are people that will have family that will buy land, right? Mother, they'll buy land and they'll have it, and all the family know that they can go there.
That's right.
And that's expensive to family. incur. So to answer your question that will reduce your expenses, read your bill.
Yeah.
Read your bill. I've sat with people that have said, hold on, let me go grab my funeral bill. They go in and grab their funeral bill. Come back out, it's a $500 charge on there for a casket key.
Wow.
And you asking the right question. Well,
It's a
hold on.
casket key.
What you need a key? Are you gonna go back and is it no, $500. And guess what the key was? It was a Allen wrench. An Allen wrench. There's $2 for $4 at Home Depot. They engraved it, put their personal engravings on it, and sometimes you just and hindsight, she said, hindsight, I don't know what I I wouldn't have did that.
Yeah.
Right. So it's very important, like you said, how do I make sure things gonna happen the way I plan them to happen? There's some great companies out there. I serve a few of them that offer final wishes guides, booklets.
Yes. They handle everything for you.
Right, they handle everything for you. There's some great companies out there, and even if you're not a part of one of those companies, I've had people that write down their wishes. Who won't sing? Lord, please get somebody to sing. You don't know, all right, what I'm gonna wear, what I'm on, whatever. Sometimes it's uncomfortable talking about that, and they could do that. But I tell people, once you get it done, you now have that peace of mind. Because let me tell you what you don't want. You don't want to pass away, and that ain't written out. Even if you got a policy is not a plan.
Right.
A policy is not a plan. So if you have a policy, but you don't have a plan written out in a safety deposit box or under the mattress somewhere. So when somebody passed away, mom from North Carolina over there saying, well, they told me they wanted green.
Yeah.
And somebody on the other side of the room saying, oh, they told me they wanted blue. And y'all know how setting up. So
Yeah.
I've seen sometimes blue and white lights out there beside the red light.
Yeah.
Because people are emotional.
Yeah.
And so you don't want to put your family in a situation where emotions are high and they try to handle all this stuff. That's a recipe for disaster. But if you got a book, while Auntie's saying that and they saying blue and they saying green, somebody can walk in, open the book and say, let me tell y'all what Mama said.
Yeah.
Wow. That's true. And guess what everybody do? I don't know how much you guys know and those are streaming about accidental death insurance. Very important. And it's just like something. It has to be something that is ruled and decidedly an accident. Some people I go and sit with and say, oh man, I got a $200,000 policy, I ain't paid for $8. Already know. Yep.
Accident. Tell them what you got, they will find some way to try to get it. And I say,
Okay.
come with intention.
Right. Intention. Need to be intentional about it. And I always tell people, listen, and I've been doing this long enough to where I don't need to, sometimes I'm not even, without even looking at the policy, I can tell what type of policy you got. Just tell me how much coverage you got. And I know you got accidental. Looking at people got accidental. Who's the biggest insurer? The biggest insurer. Biggest insurance.
Usually accidental. And so people are like, $100,000 for this. Accidental. And think about how many jobs do you see where somebody passed away from you and the company, the job they work for, sending the family $200,000. You don't see that happening. It's accidental insurance. And I usually tell people keep it. Whatever you got on job, keep it. But if it's outside my job, I control it. Yeah. The job, though I still got it. You don't usually get a policy with your job. Right. So you don't really know what you got. So get something outside your job and say we don't do that. That's a good question.
I have a question on the contingency clause. Are there companies out there that'll cover you from day one?
Are there companies that will cover you from day one? Yes.
And then also, if you still want to call 843-230-1918, or you can put your questions in the chat. We have about another 15 minutes, and then we're going to wrap up. 843-230-1918, or you can put your questions in the chat. So our question right now is, the contingency clause. There's a lot of people, I know about that, I think you mentioned it earlier, that most insurance policies, once you, get it active and everything, it has a 2-year waiting period before they would honor the full face amount.
Right. So, yeah, the contingency is, there's a 2-year waiting period, but it depends on health. So if your health is significantly worse, you're gonna have a 2-year waiting period. I use this example HIV.
Yeah.
That's a 2-year waiting period.
Okay.
So it depends on health.
Okay. But if a person that doesn't have any health issues, they may be covered from day one. Okay. So they are policies that cover you from first day. Okay.
Let's just say I want a good policy. And I decided, I'm gonna take my health in my own hands and go and exercise, get right, go get a physical. Once I get that physical, should I go and look for insurance then because it's current and they'll ask less questions instead of waiting some years later or whatever time between that to get it when it's almost about to renew the physical?
And so you're saying if you got a physical, should you wait until after the physical?
Like after you get the physical, should I just go and search for insurance right then and there after I get it? It's clean, it's good, and the doctor said, well, you're good. But some people wait. They wait.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I got the physical, but then they wait till about time to renew it, and then next thing you know, they health different. And they don't have the same good, clean bill like they had before. Should I get it right then and there so it's less question?
Well, no, not necessarily, because most term policies are guaranteed insured. What that means is your rate might change, but they usually don't require you to requalify your health.
Okay.
Yeah, you get to the end of the term, you usually guaranteed insured.
Okay.
But, when you say a 2 years waiting period, that's after you insure. After the insurance is in force, it's 2 years, supposedly.
Yes, ma'am.
But I've had the experience of insurance. My brother was insured. And the agent told us at the house with him, I asked the question, isn't there a waiting period? And he said, no, once I log this in on this computer, he can fall off that step and he'll be insured. I had to fight like I don't know what, call the commissioner and everything else to get the insurance to pay off, people to pay off.
Wow, yeah.
Which I think insurance agency should be fair up front.
Right. Right.
So
Because he was saying that, well, he must be had some kind of illness that wasn't revealed.
Yep.
Because he only had the insurance a short number of times, maybe 3 months.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a difference between the 2-year waiting period, and this is a lot of and the 2-year incontestability. Alright, so let me try to explain this. The waiting period is for people who have bad health. You didn't have no bad health, and I'm gonna tell you why that happened. Bad health, and they want to get insurance anyway, but they're too high of a risk. They do the waiting period with them, okay? The incontestability, that is actually an insurance law. Every policy, no matter how healthy you are, has 2-year incontestability. Meaning, if you pass away from within 2 years of getting any life insurance policy, technically the life insurance company can research to see if you were honest on the application. Now let me tell you what happened. Long time ago, people would do, if you didn't have a contestability period, people would wait. Let's say I was tired to wait till my loved one got on their deathbed, and then go what? Write an insurance policy on them. People, you know what I'm saying? So to do that, because what people would do is, what happened there is, he passed away within 2 years. So when you thinking, well, he died, so they should just send the money. He was insured the first day, right?
That's what he said.
Right, and he was insured the first day, but the policy's still contestable if he dies within 2 years. Meaning, if he dies within 2 years, the insurance company say, "Whoa, that was quickly after you got this policy. Let me make sure he was honest on the application." So guess what they made you do? They made you try to get medical records and all this stuff right.
They did.
Yep, that's what they do. They get the medical records basically to see was he honest on the application.
Because Lee Rick was well. He just had a heart attack.
Yep, and there you go. And then a lot of times that's the case. And those policies, I'll be honest, they end up paying out. Sometimes they end up paying out. As long as they eventually paid out, right? So it just takes a little longer and it's a little more frustrating, I'm sure. Yeah, contestability is on every policy, even mine. Go ahead.
Another question for the African American community.
Yes.
Some people may have parents, but they're not together. How do they go about doing that, having a policy with somebody else that is not there?
Okay, they have parents, but they're not together. So one of the parents want to get it on another parent, or
Maybe a
children
child want to get it on a parent.
on one of their parents.
Yes.
All right, so this is the rule of life insurance. When it comes to insurable interest, you can insure vertical, but not horizontal. So parents can insure children, no matter if they're together or not. Children can insure parents. That's vertical relationship, right? Horizontal is where you can, like a brother wants to insure another brother. Well, that brother would need to be able to be there to sign, make sure all of that stuff. But insure vertically, a parent and child parent, grandparents, yeah, you can get something on all of them, and it'll be very, very easy insurable interest because that's a lineage. So that's a good question. Doesn't matter if they're together or not.
Well, with whole and term, either one of those, do you have to get a physical or not?
That's a good question. I do so this is the easy answer. It depends on how much coverage you get. Listen, the more money you're getting, the more they want to know about you. I usually have physicals, clients do physical unless they're getting the million, the 750,000. Whole life, you're probably ever going to get final expense policies. Excuse me, you're probably never going to get physicals with that. My policies is what I call simplified issues. There's no physical, no blood, needles, nurses, or urine. They ain't coming by the house doing all that stuff. Unless you get a term policy and you go over that threshold, which is usually 750,000 or something like that. Then they're gonna want to do a physical.
The final expense policy. Explain that.
Good. Final expense. It's just a whole life policy that's used for burial. Right? It's just a whole life policy that's used to cover final expenses. Final expense policies, you're gonna look to be 10,000. In other words, it's just enough to cover the final expenses.
So those premiums are pretty low.
It's a basic whole life policy. You just refer to as final expense because that's the traditional use of that policy. But yeah, the premiums will be traditional.
Okay.
What a whole life policy.
Is that the same thing as burial or not?
Burial policy, same thing. I wanted to go back to something real quick that people have questions about a lot. You mentioned cremation. People have a lot of questions about cremation. Some people have a stigma around it. Oh, I don't want nobody to burn me, all that kind of stuff. But I will say this just for education purposes. Cremations do run between $1,000 or something like that. But you can get cremations that are just as expensive as funerals. They're getting fancy with them now. You can get your ashes put in a tree and let the tree grow in the backyard. You can put the ashes in the coral reef for the end of. So I just wanted to mention that because some people don't know how, because we think of cremation as a cheap option. And cremation has a bad stigma in our community. And I want to mention this, and I'll tell you why I think it is. Because it's a difference when I'm living and I say out of my mouth, I want to be cremated. That's what I want.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then when you cremate me when I pass away, you simply carried out my wishes. That's not a bad thing, right? The reason cremation has gotten a bad stigma because the person that was living said they wanted a funeral.
Yeah.
But they didn't get no life insurance.
Yeah.
And they didn't put nothing in place and make no preparation. And then they died. And now guess what we have to do? And now cremation gets a bad rap because they like, oh, we had to cremate him.
Yeah.
Well, it's only bad because that's not what he wanted and he didn't prepare.
Right.
But essentially, if you want cremation and you know that's what you want to do, it's not.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to clear that up because sometimes we get so bad, but anyway.
And this is one of those things we don't like to talk about, and I don't want anybody out there to get the wrong idea. This is something just to get, information, and it's something we have to talk about. And a lot of times we, look at life insurance in the wrong way. And the reason it was laid on my heart to kind of do this is because we are the old people now. We are the old people now, and about us being the old people now, we have the mindset to make sure we have our affairs in order. But the thing is, a lot of us are not thinking that way. So just think about it. How many people in our generation right now have our affairs in order? And if something happened right now, let's look at how we live. A lot of us live recklessly. A lot of us, we're not thinking about tomorrow. We're not thinking about our loved ones. And then soon as something happens, we don't know. So that's why, I'm putting this out there. And I'm not getting anything off of this. The church is not getting anything off of this. This is just for information. After today, after tonight, Mr. Robinson is going to give you some information to get in contact with him. If you choose to, talk with him on a more personal basis, that's when you will divulge your information to him. Other than that, it won't be public. But if you have any questions in the chat, Mike. Okay.
And what I'll say too is just to follow what you said. Sometimes I have people call me one time. So Mr. Robinson, I need you to come and sit down with me. I want to talk about life insurance. I just need to get something in place because you never know when you're gonna die. Mm-hmm. And I said that's true. But you know what I've learned over the years? Mm-hmm. It ain't always about when you're gonna die when it comes to life insurance. When is your health going to change?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
That makes sense.
That's the process. What people do is they say, well, I might die, Yeah, well, we all know we might die, but I've gone to people on a Monday. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sat down with them. I'll never forget. It was a husband and wife. The husband was washing the dishes up there by the sink. I was sitting with the wife doing the policy, and she said, I told her the price and stuff. She was good with the policy. She said, that sounds good. I tell you what, come back Friday. We'll go ahead and get things started. I'll sign all the stuff, whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. And her husband turned around and said, well, if you want to do it Friday, might as well go and, do it now. Whatever. They had a little talk or whatever. Mm-hmm. I just sat there, whatever. Tell me what to do. I work for y'all,
Yeah.
And she went ahead and decided to sign the policy, whatever the case may be. Now, you don't always have to pay your first premium when you sign your policy. Mm-hmm. That's important. You can sign it and some companies allow you to post date or whatever, but she signed the policy. I came back to deliver the policy, and she came down the hall. She had like a heart monitor thing on, and she was kind of moving slow, and she was tearful. She said, sir, you left on Monday. I had congestive heart failure on Wednesday. She said, wow, I never had no problem with heart. No history of it in the family. And she's crying. She just wanted to know. She said, sir, can I still get this program? Mm-hmm. And I said, well, thank God you signed. Yeah. Because remember, insurance companies go by your health at the date of the signature. Mm-hmm. Okay? At the date, you go by your health at the time you take the application out. So thank God, she did that, and I remember leaving that appointment thinking, whoa, sometimes it's about your health. It ain't always about when you might die. Because I've had people, you didn't die, but you went and got a diagnosis. Yeah. And they prescribed you something, and that's on there now. Mm-hmm. And now life insurance, it was this, and now. Yeah. Wow. It's something to think about.
My question is basically aimed towards because of his knowledge. Mm-hmm. As a minister coming into being minister, mm-hmm. How come life insurance is not offered when they get ordained? Because being a pastor is a stressful job, and it can put strain on the body. Mm-hmm. And the movement should know that, or the people who put you in a position should know that. Why is it not offered within? Because that's like you have your job, and you have your other life, and it all runs in. So that's stress on top of stress. So how could you get that in a clause to work for, as a job, like a job?
Very good question. Yeah. There are conferences and or congregations that does that, and organizations, church organizations. In my personal opinion, I believe that all pastors that belong to any organizations or what we call a movement or conference, I believe that conference should seek out life insurance for their pastors, with similar to what I talked about earlier. organization as to maybe, part of the beneficiary would go to the, conference for support and or to the spouse. And it still would not alleviate the local church from doing the same thing. So those are things that people, like I said once before, organizations have been doing for years. It's something that we in the African American community have kind of frowned upon, but I believe right now we're catching up. We're just catching up to this. This is something they've been doing for years.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, good. Yeah.
Well, we didn't get any phone calls, but I believe we got quite a few views. And Mr. Roberts, you want to share your contact information and maybe how they can get in contact with you?
Yeah, so like I said, Philip Robinson. I'm actually, the best way to get in contact with me is by phone. That's the best way to get in contact with me.
Okay.
That's how I do my business. I'm always available there. I'll put my phone number out there if you want to, a picture of the card, maybe you can put on the whatever. It's Philip Robinson, and then it's just 843-260-5885. And you can reach me there at pretty much any time throughout the day. And the purpose of calling me would just be to set up an appointment via phone,
Right.
or in person where we can do a consultation. So again, that's 843-260-5885.
Okay, and we would definitely get a picture of your card in the post and just make contact. Once again, I want to thank you, man. Thank you, man. This is good. Once again, it's very good information, and we appreciate it. So we want to thank everybody for just viewing and chiming in. Thank you once again for coming out and sharing, and we're looking forward to some more. So God bless all of you, and may heaven continue to smile.